Hi, this is Chanel. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing wonderful. The title for this video is Who's Filling in the Blanks to Your Story? Okay? Who's filling in the blanks to your story? Or is anyone attempting to fill in the blanks to your story? Okay, so I'm going to do a story time. I like to tell stories in some of my videos, in a lot of them. And I want to tell about something, or talk about something that has happened recently, as well as something that happened maybe about a year ago. Okay, and so, and I'll start with the occurrence that happened about a year ago. Okay, so I was in a meeting. Okay, and in the meeting, it was an interview. Okay, so a job interview, and there was a committee of maybe 6 people, I'll say. And one of the people in the committee asked me a question, and through the majority of the interview, while we're talking and I'm just breezing through the different topics of conversation that we were having. Okay, however, someone asked me a question. One of them asked me a question that I was not able to immediately answer. I had to think about it. Okay, and the question was, and I can't remember the word for word what the question was, but basically they were asking about a mistake. I think it was name a time or tell me about a time when you made a mistake in which you did, and what you did after you made the mistake. Okay, basically. And I don't know about you, but I don't sit around and think about, I don't think I'm perfect. Okay, however, I don't sit around and think about my mistakes, and I think a lot of us are that way. Okay, we may not think about our own mistakes. I can tell you about somebody else's mistake. Okay, however, I don't sit around ruminating about my own mistakes. Okay, and so when he asked me that question, I was kind of taken back by it, and I had to, I did not have an immediate response. So during that time, I'm thinking to myself, like I'm kind of combing through mental files, okay, trying to find a mistake that I made. Okay, and so I know, I used to, so anyway, I was thinking about times when I know that I have had to correct things. Okay, well, maybe I did it once and I had to go back and correct something. So I'm telling them about correcting documentation. Okay, but I'm trying to, I'm kind of, the way I responded reminded me of, if you ever watched game shows and you can tell when people are kind of talking themselves through, let's say, a game show host asks a question and the guest on the show is not 100% sure, like they don't have a certain answer, however they are talking themselves through an answer. Okay, and basically that is what I was doing. I was kind of talking myself through finding an answer, okay, for that. And so I'm, like I said, going through my mental files, trying to talk myself through the answer to that. And while I'm thinking and talking at the same time, I'm looking around and I'm noticing that at least one of the people in the meeting was writing something down. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm kind of talking and trying to, come up with the time that I made a mistake. Okay. And I look over at this man and he's writing something down. And I'm thinking, what could he possibly be writing down? Because I have not given an answer, and I wanted to ask him, like, what are you writing down? Because it's not making sense to me that you would be writing something down and I haven't really given an answer. Okay, so that's filling in a blank. Okay, what could you possibly be writing down when I have not given you given an answer? Okay, so that's one example of filling in a blank someone else's blank, okay? And and I don't know what he wrote down. I don't, I have no idea what he was writing down. However, that's one example, okay? Another example is something that has happened more recently, yesterday, actually. And so let me cut this down. So I was at an office, and there were people in that office that I was not familiar with. And so I asked them who they were. And they were interacting with someone who I was there with, okay? And they knew this person by name. And so, but I just asked out of curiosity who they were, basically what their positions were. Who, or whether they work for that office, because at the office that I was at, there are people who, anyway, I was asking them who they were. And a couple of the ladies responded, or their response was, "Oh, I bet you're thinking X1, you're probably thinking da 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 da." And I'm thinking to myself, no, like I kind of shook my head. I was like, no, like I would, I asked a question. I wanted to know who you were, and that's it. I'm not thinking anything. I asked a question, and I just wanted to know the answer to your question, right? However, they're telling me what I'm probably thinking, okay? And this is something that I see very often, okay? A lot of times on many occasions I have experienced, and I have also heard people basically fill in the blanks for other people, okay? And I'm going to give you one more example. Not long ago, I was having a conversation with someone, and they were telling me, "Oh, I heard X, Y, and Z about you. I know about such and such." And I was like, "Oh, well, who told you that?" And and give me more information on what you were told. Who told you that, and what else did they tell you? And they didn't want to dive into. They refused to give any detail about who said what, or what else was said, or any details of any capacity about what was said. But basically, I heard X, Y, and Z. Okay, or I've heard information about you, but there's no detail. They refuse to give detail. And it's like, okay, well, if you heard something, how do you, and it was about me, one, why are you refusing to tell me at least the details about what it was you heard, okay? So I can confirm or deny, whatever the case may be, what was told, okay? If you don't want to say who told you, at least give me more detail about what was said, okay? But at the end of the day, a lot of times people take it upon themselves to fill in the blanks when it pertains to someone else's thoughts or someone else's life or story, or whatever the case may be. And I and I think that it is very it's very odd. It's common. It's an abnormal, common occurrence. Okay, it's not normal, but it's very common. Okay, and the reason I say it's not normal is because, like I said, number one, who are you to act as if you can read somebody else's mind, or act as if you can speak for someone else, who's, especially if they're able to speak for themselves, okay? But it happens very regularly, okay? And I think it's odd because, and it is, because if someone were to come to me, and ask me about someone else, or like it just wouldn't, it would never cross my mind to tell someone else what they think, or to tell someone that I know they did something, however I wasn't there, and then if that person was to say, okay, well, tell me more, tell me what you know, and I tell that person, I'm not gonna tell you what I know, but I know, but I'm not gonna have a conversation with you about it, okay? I'm gonna fill in the blanks for you, basically, okay? It's like I said, it's very common for other people to fill in the blanks about, how someone else feels, or what someone else did, or what somebody else wants, or what someone else thinks. And 9 times out of 10, they couldn't be further from the truth, okay? So at the end of the day, if you are the type of person who takes it upon yourself to fill in somebody else's blanks, okay? Excuse me. Don't do it, okay? You probably don't know as much as you think you know, okay? And I see this a lot in certain environments. Some people will think they know, or try to act like, I don't know whether they really think they know or not, or if they just, because of ego or whatever the case may be, ego, pride, whatever, they try to make it appear as though. I don't know which it is. I'm sure it's case by case scenario, okay? But it's abnormal, okay? And you don't know, you don't know as much as you think you know, okay? So stop feeling, if it's you, if this is something that you do, okay, if you take it upon yourself to, like I said, tell other people what someone else thinks or feels, or, oh God, my ankle. Just don't do that, because like I said, you probably don't know as much as you are pretending to know, or say that you know, okay? So yeah, like I said, just don't have a habit of filling in someone else's blanks. I just dropped my phone. So if you have a habit of filling in somebody else's blanks, don't do it, okay? Have enough, especially if you're an adult. Now if you're watching this, you're probably an adult. Ask questions, okay? Instead of coming off as if you know what someone else thinks, ask them, okay? Especially if they're able to to speak for themselves. And if it's a child, encourage your child to speak for themselves, and encourage your child to tell you what they think and how they feel, okay? Don't take it upon yourself to fill in someone else's blanks, okay? It's very off-putting, okay? So I hope this video was very helpful. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I also want to say this. I personally, and I'll say depending on my mood at that time, a lot of times I will I like to allow people to show me what they do, okay? A lot of times I don't jump in. So for instance, both times are the two, the first two examples that I gave, where I was explaining to you all that, or where I was in a committee meeting, and the second occurrence, where I was at one of my offices, I didn't sit back and argue or explain myself to either, both, when I noticed that someone was writing something down and I didn't, and I haven't given an answer yet. After that meeting was over, I did not address that, okay? Also yesterday when I was at the office, and people were saying, oh, well, you probably think, I didn't address it. I was just like, no, no. And that was it. Okay, so I allow people to do what they do, usually. Okay, because to me it's good to be able to see who you're dealing with. Okay, if a person, because people are going to do what they're going to do. If a person makes assumptions, I would rather them show me that they would rather make an assumption than to have a conversation or ask questions, because that is what you should do. If you don't know something, you should ask questions or ask for more information. Okay, don't just take it upon yourself, and I'm not going to keep saying the same thing, but don't just take it upon yourself to fill in the blanks. Okay, however you choose to fill it in. All right. So, but like I said, I usually allow people to show me what it is that they do. Sometimes I will address it. And it just depends on the situation. Okay, sometimes I'll address it, and sometimes I'll just kind of sit back and allow people to. And I'm not argumentative. I don't like to argue. I don't like to go back and forth with people. To me, it's that's draining. Okay, and it's a waste of time. It depends on who it is. Now, if it's someone that let's say it's someone that I'm in a relationship with, or someone. That's basically, close family members, or somebody that I'm in a relationship with, or maybe somebody that I have to work closely with on a constant basis. Times such as that, I will nip it in the bud. Or I will. I think that it's important to have a clear understanding. I want people to understand where I'm coming from. I also want to, like I said, I just want there to be a clear understanding across the board. Okay. But like I said, for me, it's just case by case scenario. It's not worth it to me to go back and forth with every person who has a thought. Okay. Or every person who has a wrong opinion. I believe in picking my battles wisely. Okay, so anyway, like I said, if you do have a habit of filling in someone's blanks, don't do that. Okay, ask questions, and try to gain an understanding before you speak for someone else. Don't speak for someone else. Okay. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Feel free to comment. And again, thank you for watching. Bye.